Hello and welcome to Serial at Midnight. My name is Heath and this is our monthly look at everything, I mean everything, being released by Kino Lorber and their partner labels for the month of November 2022. We have over 3 dozen titles here. We have a lot of ground to cover, so I'm just going to get right to it. Thanks to Kino Lorber for sending this stuff over to me to share with you. And please continue to support this channel by subscribing, by giving thumbs ups, by commenting, sharing, talking about it with your friends. Anything you can do to support Serial at Midnight and help us to grow would be so much appreciated. So thank you for that. Let's dig in, guys. Some of this stuff we've already talked about because it did dedicated reviews. Like Mystery Men on 4K, there is a complete video review from yours truly about Mystery Men. We get into the comic book origins. We get into how this is a very unique movie, one of a kind, what's included here. But I am going to give you I'll give you the packaging overview. So here's the front, here's the back. As always, I export these in the highest definition possible. So freeze if you want to read this stuff with all the special features. Clint Eastwood and High Plains Drifter, another one that I've done a complete dedicated video review for. I'll go ahead and tell you, both Mystery Man and High Plains Drifter look absolutely fantastic on 4K. It's the best they've ever looked. Probably the best they ever will look. Here's the back of the box on this one. If you're wondering, same artwork inside. If you're wondering about Mystery Men, same artwork. Something I have not reviewed yet on its own is Clint Eastwood in Escape from Alcatraz. Now, I love this movie. This is one of those, I don't know, Clint Eastwood's just an incredible filmmaker, film actor. And this one comes from Don Siegel, who, if you know his relationship with Clint Eastwood, match made in heaven, right? So I'll be hopefully doing a dedicated video review for this one soon. Here's the back of the package. And same artwork inside. This is a big deal, you guys. This is big. We have the 3rd and final season of Night Gallery, Rod Serling's follow-up. See, it's not really a follow-up to The Twilight Zone. We know Rod Serling from The Twilight Zone. Later, in the 70s, he did Night Gallery. And it was an anthology television series here. I've actually pulled the other 2 seasons from the shelf. And by the way, you notice the shelves look different. Like, I'm doing a lot of reorganizing here. I've got some Criterion over here. I've got Kino Lorber here. But I'm in the process of moving Kino Lorber somewhere else because it's like a whole wall now. But it's all in flux right now. So if you see like gaps and stuff, that's why. It's because everything's kind of always in motion. The collection is. Night Gallery Season 3 is one of those things that, like, when we first got Night Gallery Season 1, people were messaging me, and they were like, Heath, do you think we're going to get all 3 seasons? And I was like, yeah, I think we will. And then Kino Lorber actually confirmed. They're like, seasons 2 and 3 will be coming in 2022, and here they are. So we have all, let me get these in order, seasons 1, 2, and 3. We have all 3 seasons of Night Gallery. This is how they're going to look on your shelf. And the cool thing here is that Kino Lorber has really gone above and beyond when it comes to the special features here. So we have 10 audio commentaries with authors and historians, and they're all listed here. I'll show you in just a second. But then 15 audio commentaries by film historians. So they break this authors and historians and then film historians. It's interesting. Here's the 10 audio commentaries by the authors/historians, and then here's the film historians. Tim Lucas. I can't read them all. The big thing here for me is the syndication conundrum part 3. Because if you know the history of this show, it was basically padded out for syndication by chopping up other shows and fleshing it out. And further, how do I want to say this? Making more episodes of Night Gallery where there were no more episodes. They just like, we'll take a little bit here, we'll take a little bit here, and you ended up with this whole syndicated mess. So this is now the pure original Night Gallery as it aired in high definition. And the appeal for me for things like this, and for a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about, is I'm a talent guy, I'm an actor guy, or even a director guy. It's the people that bring me to projects. It's rarely the plot or like, I'm into the creators and the people behind the scenes. So When they talk about the cast here, John Astin, Bill Bixby, who I'm a huge fan of, Chuck Connors, Sandra Dee, Sally Field, Burl Ives, Fernando Lamas, Raymond Massey, Burgess Meredith. You're gonna eat lightning and crap, Thunder Kid. Dina Merrill, Cameron Mitchell, Leonard Nimoy, both in front of and behind the camera, Geraldine Page, Joanna Pettit, Vincent Price, Mickey Rooney, Dean Stockwell, Susan Strasberg, and many, many more. John Badham from Saturday Night Fever, Leonard Nimoy, and Jeannon Swak, the director of Supergirl, are among the talents behind the Blood-Curdling Night Gallery Season 3. So between these three releases, you have the entire series of Night Gallery with tons of commentaries, and with that three-part documentary about the syndication conundrum, which is incredible. And that's new, you know, like that's new for this release, as are the commentaries. So it's 2 discs. So I think it's 15 episodes, and here's the breakdown. So I am very happy with this. Will this make the 2022 Best of the Year list? We'll know soon enough. Chuck Charlie Bronson to his friends. This is the Valachi Papers on Blu-ray with a commentary from Paul Talbot, which I think is a real selling point here. Paul Talbot is like the Bronson historian. He wrote 2 books about Bronson films, so well regarded among tough guy movie experts, tough guy movie fans and aficionados. So this is one that I think is, if you're, sometimes people are like, do I get that? Do I upgrade? If you're into like the story behind the movie, I highly recommend it. I'm just gonna throw this out there. I would like to talk to Paul Talbot. Wouldn't it be great? You guys following the Serial at Midnight podcast? We kicked it off with the Frank Tarzi interview. Kino Lorber's Senior Vice President of Acquisitions. All these releases have Frank Tarzi's fingerprints on them. He was so forthcoming in that interview. That was the first episode of the Serial at Midnight podcast. But I continue to talk to interesting people. And I just talked to Mike Malloy, who's a tough guy movie expert. And if you haven't seen that episode, or because you can watch it on YouTube, and I put it up in audio form for people that want to listen like while they're driving or jogging or whatever. If you haven't listened to the Mike Malloy or watched the Mike Malloy episode, man, I can't recommend it highly enough, because we really get into some stuff there that we've never talked about here at Serial at Midnight before. Peter Cushing in The Blood Beast Terror. This sure does look like Christopher Lee, but it's a Peter Cushing movie. The alternate artwork beneath here actually shows it's different, maybe better. This is the other side of this is this artwork. But Peter, I'm a huge Peter Cushing fan. Love Peter Cushing. This is one of his 60s movies, and it's got an audio commentary by Kim Newman and Stephen Jones. I love what Kim Newman... I really like Kim Newman's approach. I should try to talk to Kim Newman, too. I'm just going to put all this stuff out there. Just plant these seeds in these videos and see if I can reap some of this stuff. Because I would, how long have I been talking about Kim Newman? I love that guy. I didn't show you. Let's take a peep inside the Valachi Papers. Same. Oh no, it's different. I was thinking it's different. Surprise for me. Sometimes I forget, you guys, because there's so much of this stuff. Like it can be, because honestly, like all this stuff, it's only been here for at most a few weeks, so I haven't really had time to live with it yet. And I'll be full. Like, one of the reasons I don't really get into the nitty gritty of each and every one of these movies is because there's just no time. So reviews always show up later, at Serial. I'm really leaning into my Letterboxd. I'm leaning into Letterboxd because I can keep them short. I can do like 1 paragraph. I like to write more. I say this over and over again. This is mine. We are not served by small conversations about movies or anything else. That's a Serial. That's a Heath Holland quote right there. We are not served by small conversations. We owe it to ourselves to have deep, meaningful conversations about the things that we love. But I also realize that I can't do that for every single movie, So sometimes I'm just keeping it down to like a paragraph. That goes to Letterboxd, places like that. Henry Silva, you guys. Here's another one that's a really great tie-in for the Mike Malloy conversation, because he met Henry Silva. He interviewed him for his Eurocrime documentary. So this is Henry Silva, Evelyn Stewart in Assassination. And guess what? Booyah. We got some alternate artwork there beneath. Commentary. This is being issued, this is Kino Lorber, and it's also Kino Cult. You guys following Kino Cults and what they're doing with their streaming and their branding? We did a contest. Kino Lorber did a contest for Kino Cult recently, and a a Serial at Midnight Patreon supporter won the whole thing. It wasn't just for Serial at Midnight. We just shared Kino Lorber's news. A Serial at Midnight Patreon supporter won that contest, which I think is pretty groovy. This is super exciting. This is the Diamond Wizard in 3D. This is Kino Lorber in association with the 3D Film Archive, Bob Furmanek and team. We're going to talk more about this soon. I'll just go. I talked about this on social media. If you're not following Serial at Midnight on Facebook and on Twitter and all those places, if you're on those platforms, check us out, because there's a lot of stuff that happens there that doesn't show up on the channel. So I'm going to be interviewing Bob Furmanek and the 3D Film Archive team to talk about some of the 3D releases. They're going to give us some scoops and some exclusives. We're going to be talking about this and lots of other things. If you've got a question for the 3D Film Archive, if you comment with it here in the comments of this video, I'll see it, I'll copy it, I'll make a note of it, and I'll do my best to ask that in the interview, which is going to be happening pretty soon, within the next week or two, I believe. Let's say within the next 2 weeks. The goal is before Christmas. How about that? But this is great because this is the Diamond Wizard. So a lot of times 3D movies have a bad reputation. It's like, oh, they're schlock, Everybody thinks, like The Creature from the Black Lagoon, I love, but the gimmick is like, oh, it just walks towards you and like puts his fingers in your face, or like ping the paddle, like paddle ball in your face, or like playing trumpet at you, or a trombone at you, something like that. But there were a lot of really good, we just talked about where did it's down there, it's out of frame. I, the Jury from Classic Flicks, Mickey Spillane, Mike Hammer. It's a 3D movie shot by John Alton, the film noir master. I said noir southern, I know, we're going to move on. The film noir master, and he shot it, used 3D to really expand the depth of things. So 3D at the time, in the 1950s, this is a 1954 movie, was really a wonderful tool used by directors to enhance the storytelling that they were trying to accomplish. So, such is the case with this, The Diamond Wizard. This was directed by Dennis O'Keefe, who's a film noir actor that people will know. He's in this film. He's directing himself as he stars in it as well. Dennis O'Keefe, Margaret Sheridan, and Philip Friend. But guess what? So this is two versions of 3D. You have the polarized and the anaglyph. So the polarized is if you have a 3D TV, if you have a 3D Blu-ray player, and you have the polarized glasses. The anaglyph is for all the people that don't. And I think that's probably the majority. But we can talk, when I ask you to comment and continue conversations in the comments below, that's what I'm talking about. So if you're interested in 3D, do you have a 3D TV? They don't really make 3D technology anymore. It came and it seems to have passed on. It has passed. Moment of silence. 3D technology has passed. I mean, it is not, but you can still find it if you look for it. But I think a lot of people aren't set up for 3D. And so they've got us covered here because we've got the anaglyph version, which is the red and blue, right? And they've even got a pair of 3D glasses in here branded with Kino Lorber and the 3D Film Archive on it. So I think that is just the coolest. That is the limit, man. And so this is something that everybody can enjoy in 3D, regardless of your technology. And they've loaded it up. We got an audio commentary with Mike Ballou from the 3D Film Archive team, feature about restoring the Diamond Wizard in 3D, both versions, alternate opening credits. Man, the 3D Film Archive is crushing it. They don't just restore 3D films, but when it does come to 3D films, doggy, they're doing some good stuff here. This is really is. I haven't even had a chance to watch any of these yet, but I'm so excited about it. This is the French Noir Collection, and it's 3 films. So speaking of Murder, Back to the Wall, and Witness in the City, 57, 58, 59. I am really, really curious to see how this stuff performs. One movie, another movie, and the third movie. I'm really curious to see how this stuff performs, because one of the things you're going to notice as we get further into this stack is that Kino Lorber and Cohen Media and different distributors are really leaning into international cinema. They're leaning hard into French films from the 50s and the 60s and beyond. But that's the stuff that gets my antenna up, is the 50s and the 60s. You had no idea, right? But they're really German films and Italian films. There is a big foreign film movement happening right now, and this is evidence of that. I just think it's great. So obviously these movies are in French with English subtitles. That's how I don't want dubs. I want French. And then special features trailers for 2 of the films. I don't know. It's just a really cool package, and I would like to know, as always, what do you guys think about this? As we're getting, you see, I ordered these so we get further into noir as we go, because it is November. It is Noir-vember. I've never been one to lean into a trend just because it's memeable, right? But I do appreciate that so many people are watching noir right now, because it's a genre. Is it a genre? I've talked about that in my film noir video. Like, what is film noir? It's probably more a cycle and a style than a genre, but for the sake of this conversation, let's call it a genre. A lot of people are discovering it, checking it out, and they're using these film noir box sets. They're to this side. Here's volumes 1 through, you can't even see them. Volumes 1, this is why they're getting their own wall. Volumes 1 through 10 are behind me. This is volume 11, Film Noir, The Dark Side of Cinema. We have A Woman's Vengeance. Here, we'll do it like this. We have A Woman's Vengeance with, who's in this? Anne Blythe, Jessica Tandy. Aldous Huxley wrote this. Did he write the screenplay? Written for the screen by Aldous Huxley, yes. Which is amazing. And because, we'll go down a whole sidebar about Aldous Huxley, but kind of a big deal writer. I Was a Shoplifter, which is a movie that I have watched. There's a review for this on Letterboxd right now, a 1-paragraph review. Fantastic little noir about shoplifting. I'll keep this real short. It has Scott Brady is so Mona Freeman gets busted in shoplifting. She's like a kleptomaniac. She gets busted stealing in a department store. And before you know it, she's being blackmailed by this crime ring, and they're like, you're gonna steal for us. See, Scott Brady is undercover from the sheriff's department, pretending to be a thief himself, and he's going in to infiltrate this crime ring. Tony Curtis, it's 1950, so he's very young. He's billed as Anthony Curtis. But one of the joys for me with these film noir box sets, which often come, Kino Lorber releases a lot of Universal films, and they've since they've got deals now with Paramount and, lots of other companies. But for a long time, like, the Universal archives are just full of, Kino Lorber is just picking so many Universal titles. Tony Curtis was a Universal contract player. So discovering these older movies that some of them, actually not some of them, most of them weren't even on VHS. They played in the theaters, they played on television, and now they have skipped directly to Blu-ray. So discovering all these bit part Tony Curtis roles are great. He actually has a really good role here. It's a huge step forward for him. If you're following him from 49, Tony Curtis is different from 1950 Anthony Curtis, and soon he would just be Tony Curtis. Rock Hudson has 2 lines in this movie, just a bit part for Rock Hudson. It's pretty great. And then the last one is Behind the High Wall, which is a prison escape movie with Tom Tully, Sylvia Sidney, and John Gavin, which is great stuff. But 2 of these have no special features at all. They have the theatrical trailer, but this one has a commentary by Jason A. Ney. Now I got to make sure I get these right back in the correct. They always put them in there chronologically. Now, they're like every film noir box set does not unfold chronologically, but within each set they are ordered chronologically, which I appreciate because I like to watch things chronologically in order. Hold on, let me flip some of this stuff around. Yeah, here we go. The Unguarded Moments. This is a 1956 Esther Williams, George Nader, and co-starring John Saxon. So I love John Saxon. A lot of you guys probably know him from Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff like that, but he was. What was I watching? So I'm watching The $6 Million Man on Blu-ray from Shout Factory, and listening to commentaries, and someone referred to John, because he's the robot, right? If you know The $6 Million Man. I know I'm talking more than I should, but this is what separates Serial at Midnight from everybody else. It just holds up a box. This is what Serial at Midnight does. We deep dive. We have the joy. We have the passion. But I also want to keep these videos approachable for the casual audience, right? So it's a thin line to walk here. John Saxon is the robot from the $6 Million Man franchise. And the commentator referred to him as of the Gidget generation. And he was. That's something we forget. Like, his earliest movies, he's in like rock and roll movies of the 50s. And so this is another one, 1956, a very early role for John Saxon. He's not even on the art or anything like that. But if you love John Saxon and you're only watching like horror work or maybe his exploitation stuff or his Italian movie stuff, don't snooze on his 50s. I mean, the 50s are super cool, right? Like, regardless, every time we have this conversation, we got to acknowledge what Quentin Tarantino said about the 50s. I hard disagree that the 50s were a low point for cinema. I think they were one of the most rich, one of the most rebellious. Because here's the code is cracking. The production code is cracking in the 50s. And so you have all these studios, all these filmmakers figuring out how to get around that code. You've also got a ton of Poverty Row. Monogram is turning into Allied Artists. You've got so many Poverty Row independent filmmakers, independent studios are getting their stuff out there. It's probably my favorite era for cinema. So, take... What do you think about some of this stuff? We tend to give some of these people, like James Cameron's out talking about his, 17 new Avatar movies, and he's saying things about movie history. What do we think about these guys that, these ivory tower people who have millions and millions of dollars taking a dump on cinema that they consider to be beneath them? I don't like it. If you can read my tone, I don't like it. Not to say I don't like those directors and I don't like any of their movies, because that's not the case. But when they start to pontificate about things when they denigrate cinema history, that's when yours truly starts to take issue with it. Peking Express, Joseph Cotten, Corian Calvert, Edmund Gwynn, directed by Dieterle. I'm not sure how you pronounce that name. I'm sorry, you guys. All right, this is remastered. This is a Paramount release. I'm loving this deal with Paramount as well. All this stuff. Paramount's transfers can be tricky sometimes. We got to acknowledge that too. This is a new 4K scan of the 35 millimeter CFG, and yeah, Paramount's transfers can, especially when you get to 4K stuff. It's worth talking about. I noticed Kino Lorber is commissioning a lot of new transfers for things, which actually I give a thumbs up to. Anyway, new commentary by film historian Eddie Von Mueller. We'll talk more about this probably on Letterboxd. Detective Story. Also, for those that don't know, this channel is the companion to CerealAtMidnite.com, which predates this YouTube channel. I've been writing about movies for the better part of 10 years. I do consider myself kind of a film enthusiast, a film reviewer. I won't use the critic word, but that's kind of, I'm interested in the history of movies and where they go and how they do what they do. There's an archive at CerealAtMidnite.com with hundreds of my reviews. And some of that stuff's on Letterboxd, but they're, it's different. I would recommend CerealAtMidnite.com should be your first stop before you go anywhere else. This is Kirk Douglas, Eleanor Parker, and William Bendix in Detective Story. My friend Vanessa, wherever she is, if she's watching this video, she just cheered for William Bendix. So here is the back of the package. Produced and directed by William Wyler. You guys, did he ever do anything else? That's a joke. He's, of course, an extremely prolific guy. Restored by HD by Paramount Pictures from a 4K scan. This is good news. I know we nitpick some of the 4K stuff. We're like, yeah, but does that... Someone said the other day, I saw, they're like, but how clear is the vase in the background? That's what it feels like sometimes. If you're paying attention to the vase in the background and not just immersed in the movie, something's probably wrong. But people get real upset when I say things like that. They're like, hey, if I just want to enjoy the high definition transfer of a terrible movie, that's my right. It is your right. I just don't understand it. I like to watch good things. I like to fill my brain with like talent and good stories and good acting and things like this. So I don't know. That's always, people are like, oh, it's a terrible movie, but it looks great. I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't make the movie better. Anyway, Bob Hope, Lucille Ball, and Fancy Pants. Another 4K scan. I just noticed another new 4K scan from Paramount. I'm curious about this because I've heard that Bob Hope sells very well on home media. This is what I've heard, that he is a format leader, which some of you guys might be surprised. If you're only watching Transformers or whatever, that might be surprising. But Bob Hope is like one of the most established film stars of all time. And someone told me that he leads. He's always like one of the best sellers of discs because anything with Bob Hope sells really well. But it's also a Western. I know Westerns traditionally maybe don't sell as well. So I'm curious. And Lucille Ball, right? Like this is pre-Lucy shows, or we're getting right up on it, right up to the Lucy show. This is really interesting to me. This is the majesty that we talk about from the Universal Archives. This is Bedtime for Bonzo with Ronald Reagan and a chimpanzee. Also Diana Lynn. But the premise of this movie is that he is it's a madcap screwball kind of a thing. It's not technically screwball because screwball is kind of over by the 30s and in the 40s. But it's a 1951 movie where like he proves his love. Basically, it's this excuse to write a chimpanzee into a romance. And so shenanigans happen. I am amazed that we are living in a world where Bedtime for Bonzo has a Blu-ray. Those holding out for a 4K for Bedtime for Bonzo, I wouldn't hold my breath. Brand new 2K Master too. This is just like, what a charmed time we're living in. Now, bear with me, guys. This is more that French stuff I was talking about. So I don't know if I should even attempt to pronounce some of this stuff. But it's two Maigret movies, Inspector Maigret. They're actually, I think, in December, this is a heavy month. November is a heavier month. December is going to be a lighter month as we kind of wind down the year. But they're releasing the first season of the Maigret series. Anyway, I'm assuming this is Pique-Pou. And Cécile is dead. I'm doing my best, you guys. These are in French again. French with optional English subtitles. They have, it's 2 films on 1 disc. Let me verify that. Yeah, 2 films, 1 disc. They run 91 minutes and 82 minutes. So there are no worries about compression or anything like that. All right, we're leaving the studio classic stuff and we're entering into more art house stuff. So Rob Epstein and Jeffrey Friedman collection. This is 3 documentaries. I have not watched any of these yet, but it seems they specialize in, let's see, for over 30 years, Oscar-winning directors Rob Epstein and Jeffrey Friedman have borne powerful witness to gay life, creativity, and activism. Activism, documenting a lost aspect of LGBTQ history. Okay, so these are the films. I'm gonna flip this around. All right, I'm going to have to create a new step. Well, no, I'll stick with my established stacks. Hold Me Tight. I believe this is French with English subtitles. So this is, obviously, I haven't seen it yet. So I probably shouldn't editorialize. It's got some pretty great pull quotes there at the top from people that know what they're talking about. So it was an official selection at Cannes. It comes from Kino Lorber's license with Gaumont, or Gaumont, the French. For nerds, for genre fans like me, all right? So Highlander, the series. I was born 400 years ago in the Highlands of Scotland. Didn't they shoot... So that was a co-production between... Who was the American company? Was it Viacom? I don't remember. And Gaumont in France. And so they split financing. And one studio handled the North American stuff and the other studio handled the French stuff. So they shoot half the season in Vancouver, half the season in Paris. And I always loved the Paris stuff because it was like, oh, well, there's Duncan MacLeod and there's Notre Dame behind him. And there's, they have all these castles and stuff. Instant production value by moving the show to Europe. But I think that was with Gaumont. Dropping stuff. All right, I gotta put some speed on it. Here's The Good Boss. This is a newer film. I think this is 2020. I'm looking for the year 2021 with Javier Bardem, and it's in Spanish. Really curious about this. My wife Bree is a huge Spain, Javier Bardem, and Penelope Cruz by proxy too. Abre los ojos. Okay, A Knife in the Head. This is in German. I'm telling you guys, man, Cohen especially is really leaning into the foreign films here. Leonard Maltin calls this a fascinating, disturbing drama. The New York Times says Gans is extraordinary. So, new 4K restoration on this one. This is a classics of German cinema. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce this one. This is a classics of French cinema from Cohen. I'm not going to do it. I'll risk Mon Dieu. I'll risk that one. But it got 4 stars from Roger Ebert. That's pretty interesting. Bonus features here. It's in French with English subtitles. Did I hold this up long enough for you to freeze? Freeze it, guys. Y'all move, creep. You guys aren't creeps. You're awesome. All right. Another one I'm not going to attempt. Here is the reverse. Another French classic. Where does this one come from? This is another French classic. 2 French films. A film by Patrice Leconte. So we have 2001's Felix and Lola and 2002's Love Street. Why do birds suddenly appear every time that you're near? No, why do certain movies like Amélie around the same time, like Millennium era, get this huge, didn't Miramax buy Amélie, if a memory serves? And Amélie was this French movie that a lot of Americans love because it got picked up and released in theaters here. Why that movie and not movies like this? Or maybe these did and I just don't know about them. But it's so interesting how distribution changes the whole game for these movies. You either can know a movie or you can not know about a movie based on just distribution. What is the access for an American for these two movies without a disc like this? You know what I'm saying? So that's just pontificating. Raro, we have more Raro stuff. You know, Kino Lorber has stepped in to help distribute Raro video titles. They've been doing that for a while, but Raro is back. I think this is the third Raro release in 2 months, I want to say. So Mike Malloy, Tough Guy movie expert, contributes to a lot of Raro editions. This is a 1998 film, Descent of the Night. And let me flip this around for you. I believe this is only in Italian with English subtitles. Yeah, so no dub on that one either. Again, some people get real upset when dubs get left off, but I don't know. Dubs really lack for me. And I know that it can be challenging to keep up. Just rewind. Watch it again. I do that all the time when I'm watching something that's dubbed. If I miss it, if I space out, if I check my phone for something, just rewind it. Check it out again. Anyway, that's just pro tip. You can rewind and pick up on the subtitle that you might have missed. We're getting into doc territory and really deep indie film territory, and these are all DVDs. But if you're a DVD, if you're an HD snob, if not for DVDs, these releases wouldn't happen at all. So just keep that in mind. The Bookkeepers, this is a documentary by Phil Wall. I gather this just from, all right. Just going to let you read it. Sounds heartbreaking, but also pretty beautiful. Kaddish, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is a big deal. David Edelstein from The Village Voice said it's a stunning profile. David Edelstein, great reviewer, by the way. I don't always agree with him, but I appreciate his intentions. Walter Ruby, a landmark film. New York Magazine, David Denby says it's a remarkable documentary. Flip that around. All right. Casablanca beats hip-hop in Casablanca. By the way, check out my review for the film Casablanca. Someone told me I'm gonna address this. I just read this today. Someone said that my review for Casablanca had them in tears, and that was certainly not intentional. But that, who wouldn't want to hear that? I tapped into what makes that movie so special and the magic of movies in a way that actually moved them. So if you're watching this, the person that said that, if you're watching this, I tip my hat to you. Thank you. Love Charlie. This is about the Charlie Trotter's restaurant, the rise and fall of Charlie Trotter, who's a chef, like a sort of a famous chef. It's a documentary about him. A lot of these are documentaries. Here's Buried, the 1982 Alpine Meadows Avalanche. This is a documentary about they call it the third deadliest avalanche in U.S. history. So this is the story of that event. This is interesting. I'm a big music guy, so this is Let There Be Drums. And they're talking to a lot of drummers, and they're talking to Taylor Hawkins, and he's gone now. I can't believe Taylor Hawkins is gone, the drummer from the Foo Fighters. To Stuart Copeland from the Police, Mickey Hart and Bill Kreutzmann from Grateful Dead, Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and more. Ringo. Ringo? Oh, Ringo Starr's the first one on here. Okay. I was like, I didn't see Ringo. If you get Ringo, he should probably be at the top. But anyway, this is going to be interesting. I always wanted to play drums. I play guitar. I play a little bit of bass. I mess around on piano. I always wanted to learn drums, but they're so loud and they take up a lot of room, and you have to have patient roommates, right? So after the murder of Albert Lima, flip that around. It takes. Oh, I should say we have switched. So we were in Greenwich. A lot of these movies were released by Greenwich Entertainment. Now this is Gunpowder Sky, who I do not recall Kino Lorber distributing for before. Maybe they have, but I didn't recognize Gunpowder Sky. And when I saw that, I was like, hey, is that a new label that Kino Lorber is affiliated with now? Pardon me. I think this is also this First Run Features. Here's another one. This is Kino Lorber distributing for First Run Features. Riders on the Purple Sage. This is The Making of a Western Opera, a documentary by Kristen Atwell Ford. Any Riders of the Purple Sage fans out there? Hey, we got all kinds here, man. We probably even have fans for Paul Taylor at Creative Domain. Dance. Actually, I know for a fact, I know we have dancers in the audience because they've told me. Men and women. So it takes, sometimes we feel like we're in these little boxes, but you never know, man. You just never know. Flip that around. I believe this is also first run features. Yeah. Oh, this was a New York Times critics pick. Billy Flanagan, the happiest man on earth. This is about his affiliation with Disney. Or Walt Disney World. Who released this one? This is Kino Lorber and GDE. And last but not least, Kino Lorber for Zeitgeist Films, Loving Highsmith. So Patricia Highsmith wrote Strangers on a Train. Hold on. Most of Highsmith's novels are adapted for the big screen. The best known of these are Strangers on a Train and The Talented Mr. Ripley. So this is talking about her life, her private life, her challenges. Another documentary. So, all right, guys, we did it. That is over, I think it's 37 Kino Lorber and Kino Lorber distributed titles. Covered a lot of ground. Continue the conversation in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching these videos. They are daunting, but they're a lot of fun to do because they're like what a scope, right? What a breadth of a film, just a film. What a breadth that we get to talk about here, and I'm really grateful. I'm grateful that Kino Lorber it allows me to do this. This is it's a pleasure. I don't know that they're doing this with anybody else, and so I take it. I am proud and I'm grateful. So. To Kino Lorber, thank you. For you guys watching this, thank you. Again, if you have, use the comments of this video to talk about movies, to talk about recommendations, to ask questions. We are here. We are a community. The community is so important. This is the video community. So let's talk about it. Guys, thanks so much. Take care. Until next time, I will catch you later.